I just have to say, this is not a planned video. I didn't plan on making this video, but I had to talk about it because I was just having a discussion about it with my colleague. And yeah, it was getting heated. So I was like, let me put my opinions on a video so I can hear what other people think about this. So today, Julius Malema, the leader of the economic freedom fighters, was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Yeah, that's what I want to talk about. So he was sentenced following a long-running criminal case linked to an incident in 2018. The case centers on Julius Malema firing a rifle into the air during a EFF rally in the Eastern Cape in front of a large crowd. The court found that this was not accidental or symbolic, but a deliberate act. He was convicted on multiple charges, including unlawful possession of a firearm, unlawful possession of ammunition, and discharging a firearm in a built-up slash public area, as well as reckless endangerment. These offences fall under South Africa's strict firearm control laws, which regulate who may possess weapons and prohibit firing them in populated areas due to the risk of harm. The case itself had several important highlights, which I want to talk about, and I also want to insert my opinion. So the prosecutors pushed for a much harsher sentence of up to 15 years, which I thought that was crazy. I thought that was crazy, and I think it's important to note that his advocates also compared this case to the Oscar Pistorius case, which was not really a case where before the Oscar Pistorius case, the one where he murdered his girlfriend, before that, it's not this one. So before that, he had fired an arm and a firearm at a restaurant. I believe it's Tasha's, and there were no repercussions for that. So they were comparing this case, and which I think that's crazy because Oscar Pistorius was a public figure by then. He was also a public figure, so that couldn't, like, why wasn't he held responsible for that, or why were there any repercussions for that? Because this court then goes on to argue that because Julius Malema is a politician, a public figure, he should be held to a higher standard. And I do believe that Oscar Pistorius was also a public figure, so why wasn't he held responsible for shooting for firing a firearm at a public space? Anyways, so the court goes on to argue that what I was just saying, that Malema's position as a political leader meant that his actions could encourage lawlessness among supporters, which, okay. So there was a person not so long ago who had money in his couch. What about that? Why was that person not like, I'm just saying. So the court agreed that public figures must be held to a high standard, stressing that allowing such behavior to go unchecked would threaten the rule of law. Hi, we are living in South Africa. Every other day, politicians are being exposed for being scumbags. But no, let's hold this guy to a higher standard. Oh, okay. Malema's defense argued that the act was merely celebratory and caused no injuries, and even claimed at one point that the firearm might not have been real. Despite this, the court ruled that the act was intentional and dangerous. The final sentence of 5 years will run concurrently across charges, but it carries a major political consequence. Any sentence over 12 months could disqualify him from serving in parliament if upheld after appeal. Malema has already indicated that he will appeal both the conviction and the sentence. And this is where I might sound like I'm going crazy, but hear me out. Don't you think it's a bit crazy that he's the one being held as an example? Which I don't care for Julius Malema. I don't care for the EFF. Don't think I'm doing this. Oh my God, he should be free. No, I don't care for that. I do think it's crazy that he's being held as an example, and that the court said that he should be held as to a higher standard, and if not so, then he's going to encourage unlawlessness and threaten the rule of law. I do think that's crazy in a country where we've had someone had money in their couches, that someone holds the highest position in the country, but nothing happened to them. Hello? What are we doing here? And every other day in South Africa, a politician is being exposed for being corrupt. And I feel like people don't think as corrupt. They don't think corruption is violent, which I do say it's violent, because corruption is essentially stealing money from the poor. You are stealing money from everyday ordinary South Africans. They don't have jobs. That is very much violent. They don't have anything to eat. That is very much violent. They don't have resources. That's very much violent. And in South Africa, I do believe South Africa is one of the most unequal places in the world, and that inequality gap is further widening by corruption. That is very, very violent. Yet these people are allowed to roam freely. We are literally witnessing testimony after testimony after testimony, horrendous crimes that are happening within our government systems. But no, do you think those people are going to be held accountable? And funny enough, I do believe that politicians must be held to a higher standard in South African society. I do believe that. But I find it to be quite weird that we have politicians that are being exposed for corruption every other day, but they are not being held accountable. They are not being held to a higher standard. I think this is one of the things that make our justice system look like a joke. Because not so long ago, I was talking about the Constitution of South Africa and how it's considered one of the most progressive in the world. I did go on to talk about how the implementation and enforcement of it then ruins it. And that's how we end up with a system like this. And I do think this contributes to that. Because what do you mean he must be held to a higher standard, but then you are not holding all politicians to the same higher standard? Come on now. Come on now. All I want is everybody to be held accountable. If you're going to be stealing from people, be held accountable. If you're going to be doing reckless behavior like this, be held accountable. But we can't pick and choose who gets to be held accountable, because that's not justice. That's not justice to me. But anyways, I would like to hear what you think about this matter, because it has me feeling like I'm going crazy. It has me feeling like I'm going crazy because a lot of people are saying that, oh, they're doing this because he might be president tomorrow. And when I say tomorrow, I mean in the next national elections. And some people are just saying, oh no, he deserved it. He deserved even worse. Which I feel like the country is a bit divided on this. Which, tell me what you think.